Here's a visible satellite loop of parts of Northern California and Nevada. This blue outlined area here is Lake Tahoe. You can see the San Francisco Bay Area here and the Pacific shoreline in southern Oregon located in the top part of your loop here. A couple of features that I want you to take note of. The first one here is probably the most obvious one, is this bank of cloudiness that you see over here on the west coast, and that bank of cloudiness extends, at least at the beginning of the loop, inland here to the low-lying areas around San Francisco. So it looks like this was a very foggy morning in the San Francisco Bay Area, but as the sun came up, as it often does, heating the land, causing the temperature to rise above the dew point temperature and getting that condensed water vapor in the form of fog and low stratus clouds to re-evaporate into water vapor. Notice the areas that are offshore don't see that erosion of the cloudiness because the water, having a higher specific heat, can't warm as quickly as the land can, so you're not getting that separation of temperature and dew point. Therefore, as you move right offshore, you stay socked in with the cloudiness here. Why so cloudy along the west coast? Well, there's the cold California current that comes down the west coast. Cold water tends to cool the air above it. If it cools it down to its dew point, you get this fog and stratus forming here. A little bit of a swirl here, which is kind of a neat feature. Another thing I want you to take a look at, it's not quite as obvious, but you may see it here. There are several wildfires going on in Northern California. Probably the most pronounced one is located right here. You can see this little plume of cloudiness that comes up, and the wind actually is coming out of the northeast here, but toward the last couple frames it looks like it's shifting to more of an easterly direction, as indicated by this little tuft of cloudiness, or smoke rather, not clouds, moving over here toward the west. So you can see some of the remnants. This is probably smoke, not necessarily cirrus, but smoke left over from this wildfire and some of the other smaller wildfires that are going on over there. But it's a neat feature to see with this visible satellite picture. And probably the last thing I can mention here is as the ground heats up, you'll see that there are some cumulus clouds that are forming over the higher elevations here. Now at night, you end up with the air along these high elevations sliding down in what's called a mountain breeze, winds sliding down from high elevations to low elevations as the air cools and becomes more dense. But just the opposite happens during the daytime. You get what's called a valley breeze. Air moves up the sides of the mountains because the sides of the mountains are warming up, so you have air rushing up in all directions on either side of these mountains and ridges, and once it gets to the top of the mountain, it collides with the other side, the air moving up the other side of the mountain, and you get this continuous rising motions. If it rises, has enough moisture in it as it rises, you get these clouds to form. So you can see as the day heats up a little bit, you're getting these cumulus clouds to form here. So we got cumulus clouds forming in the mountains, a little bit of a wildfire action up here in Northern California, and you got the erosion of the maritime layer, the fog in the San Francisco Bay Area.